Hello everyone, my name is Edwin Reynos and I am a third-year doctoral student in the Counseling Psychology program here at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Counseling psychology is one of the many psychological disciplines, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk to you about counseling psychology and the PhD process. What is counseling psychology? People are often confused by the difference between counseling and clinical psychologists because their responsibilities often overlap. You will often see counseling and clinical psychologists working together in a variety of settings. The history of counseling psychology is directly linked to the history of educational guidance in this country. This is why counseling psychology programs are generally housed in schools of education, like here at UWM. Counseling and clinical psychologists developed side by side as psychologists began to do psychotherapy, what we consider clinical work, which used to be the domain of psychiatrists. Counseling psychology emerged as a specialized discipline following the industrialization of our country, as psychologists were tasked with focusing on vocational and educational issues to meet the needs of a growing workforce and an industrialized labor market. The vocational guidance work that emerged during this period, assessment of work-related traits and job performance variables, as well as the educational guidance piece, helped counseling psychologists distinguish themselves from clinical psychologists. Following World War II, where large numbers of veterans were in need of both vocational guidance and psychotherapy to address mental health concerns, counseling psychologists determined that psychotherapy was an important part of their skill set as well, as vocational concerns are an integral part of our lives. In this way, counseling psychology expanded its focus from solely career issues to an emphasis on overall well-being throughout the lifespan. Counseling psychology remains the psychological discipline that emphasizes and focuses uniquely on vocational guidance, development, and assessment. Counseling psychologists are able to provide therapy in one-on-one group and family settings, provide and perform psychological assessments of intelligence, personality, psychosis, and disability, develop interventions for best practices in therapy, training, and research, advocate for the diverse needs of different populations and groups, and naturally provide career assessments and vocational guidance. There are two ways to becoming a counseling psychologist. The first of these is by earning a PhD, a doctorate in philosophy degree, which is an academic degree and is the degree that the counseling psychology program here at UWM confers. These degrees are often conferred by programs which utilize a scientist practitioner model. That means that the importance of clinical work and the rigor of scholarship are equally emphasized, and these programs have expectations and requirements for clinical work and research. PhDs are the degrees exclusively sought after by scholars, and lead to many opportunities within research-oriented settings like academia, where one can follow a tenure or non-tenure track position within a university, or in educational and policy institutions that inform legislation and the government. Only tenure-track faculty can attain the rank of professor. PhD counseling psychologists can also be found in a myriad of community settings that provide mental health services, and also working as consultants in consultation with organizations that need their specific skills or advisement. They can also establish private practices and focus predominantly on their clinical work. PsyD degrees are doctorates in psychology and are professional degrees. These degrees are often conferred by programs which stress clinical training and preparation and do not rely on the scientist practitioner model. That means that the emphasis is on clinical training and the development of therapeutic skills. While the scholastic requirements are not as intense, some research is usually expected by PsyDs, but the professional aim is not in research-oriented careers. Usually, PsyDs work in exclusively clinical settings, but can be found in other research and academic settings, for example, as faculty in PsyD programs. Let me take a moment to talk to you about what kind of requirements counseling psychology programs typically have. While students with only a bachelor's degree can be accepted, It is rare, and most accepted students come in with a master's degree in counseling, psychology, education, the social sciences, or some closely related field. In this way, counseling psychology programs are also different than clinical psychology programs, where bachelor's degrees are not uncommon. When it comes to post-baccalaureate coursework in these fields and other related fields are the most useful to your candidacy. The GRE is required, and minimum scores vary by university, and are often used as a cutoff point to reduce potential candidates in the large pool of applicants. Letters of recommendation are extremely important, and it is important that you seek these from individuals who can speak not only to your professional and clinical strengths, but to your research and academic skills. Particularly if you are going for a PhD, you want to find people who can highlight academic and research skills. Resumes are required, and your resume should also demonstrate experience in education, social services, or related careers. Your resume should highlight academic involvement and professional accomplishment, but demonstrate a willingness and interest to be trained into a counseling psychologist. Memberships and affiliations in psychology-oriented organizations like Psychi or ACA are also helpful. An on-campus interview is generally required as well, as the faculty have an interest in getting to know you before admission. These interviews are very important and serve as the last milestone in your path to acceptance. Students who are invited to interview have the chance to demonstrate their character, passion, and knowledge directly to the faculty. If you are attempting to get a PhD in counseling psychology, some tips to help you be a stronger candidate are to involve yourself in research if possible. Make sure that you are making a thoughtful choice about your advisor, and do not simply select a school based on convenience or location, but consider how you and your advisor will fit and how they will further your academic goals. Make sure you are knowledgeable on the scholarship in your area of research interest, and be sure to discuss your willingness and passion to engage in research. Finally, it may be important to consider how you will afford your program. What assistantships do they have, and, if students are not fully funded, how will you manage the cost of school? Working for pay can be quite challenging while being a doctoral student. This brings me to talking about the expectations of a doctoral student. This may be the most challenging phase of your life up until this point, which is why students should not decide lightly to embark on this important academic journey. Coursework is one component of your responsibilities where you may encounter, for the first time, an expectation of an understanding of important psychological areas, how to perform and interpret assessments, engaging and expanding your knowledge on multicultural issues and diversity, clinical theory and interventions, and ethics. Your practicum experience will take about 2 to 4 days a week, roughly 15 to 20 hours depending on the setting, where you will provide direct psychotherapeutic services to individuals and groups depending on the setting. You will be involved in practicum for the first 3 years of your doctoral career, and it is like having a fully accountable part-time job in addition to your other responsibilities. Research is an ever-present expectation, and most students are involved in a research team that is headed by a member of the faculty. The research teams focus on issues and scholarship in their specialties, and students in our program are allowed to be involved in multiple teams and work with multiple faculty on projects. Students are either working on their own individual projects guided by their advisor, in small independent groups, or larger group projects that come from the research team. Much of this research is presented at conferences, and even for students who may not have projects being presented at conferences, attendance is strongly encouraged. The culmination of your scholastic activities as a student is your dissertation, for which every student is responsible, an individual project which is an original contribution to the field. Assistantships are available in many departments that fund their graduate students, and if you are fortunate to have one, then you will have another fully accountable part-time job to do in order to support your academic career financially. Assistantships can take many forms, and the work responsibilities and hours requirements may vary by what you are doing. Many assistantships require teaching undergraduate and graduate courses, being a project assistant on large grants or ongoing university initiatives, provision of administrative duties in the department or the university at large, and fellowships that may require research, teaching, or GPA requirements. Some students also work in addition to all these responsibilities, either to supplement their income or as their main source of support if they do not have an assistantship. Throughout all these expectations is also an expectation of self-care, and that students will be self-motivated to create and maintain a balance for themselves between work and life that facilitates their success as students and clinicians. These challenges are plentiful. There is a reason why the percentage of the population with doctoral degrees is as small as it is. This is not for everyone. But for those willing to engage in the effort to reach their goals, this experience can lead to some of the most rewarding and enriching experiences you'll ever have. Your practicum can be a deeply rewarding experience. For many, it may be the first time you work in settings like hospitals or community clinics, helping people directly in this way. There are few things more rewarding than seeing someone's life change and improve and being a part of that. You may have the opportunity to work with a diverse population of people that either you've never worked with before or can continue to learn more about. Practicum will also allow you to build a network of supportive professionals who not only care about your growth and development, but can help you in the future to reach your goals. Membership in professional organizations like the American Psychological Association can also further foster your network and connections to scholars and supports in the field. Conferences can be some of the most exciting things you do as a doctoral student. Aside from traveling, since national conferences have taken place everywhere from Hawaii to Toronto, you will also have the opportunity to meet hundreds of fellow students, professors, practitioners, and scholars. Conferences have research-oriented events as well as speeches and awards and social events. The excitement of a conference stays with you, and even our faculty look forward to seeing their distant friends and colleagues again at a convention. Being a student at UWM gives you access to a vibrant campus community, as well as the city of Milwaukee. Aside from university-wide groups and organizations within the Department of Educational Psychology and the Counseling Psychology program, we have two student organizations that serve as a source of support: communication with faculty, conference funding, and social events. Between the festivals that Milwaukee is known for and the bustling urban life, there's much to offer. Finally, the social connections with peers and colleagues that you make as a student in this program can be valuable and cherished connections that will stay with you throughout your career and life. Aside from counseling psychology, UWM does offer graduate degrees in other related fields like school psychology, learning and development, educational statistics and measurement, clinical psychology, social work, and sociology, to name a few. In April, we will host an in-person Q&A session about the various psychology fields. Watch for more information in the spring semester. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact Amanda, who can be reached at this contact information. And if you ever want to hear from me, my information is also provided. Good luck to you, and maybe I'll see you at APA someday.